Warm greetings from the high 10 is Everyday Shenanigans. 2:49 a.m. here in East Tennessee. Known to some as the witching hour. What is the witching hour? Depends on your interpretation. Folklore, after midnight, ghosts and witches and demons are at their most powerful. That's what I saw in the search. No later than 3 to 4 a.m. Imagine that. Around the time, allegedly, 4 friends, University of Idaho students, lost their lives to a demon. 2 roommates were spared. They have given commentary via a pastor of their thoughts of their decedent friends. I know that sometimes when people write things down, it may appear a certain way to certain people once repeated. I guess what I'm saying is that I was expecting more out of the commentary. I miss you, gonna miss you. Had great times with you. That's why it's best to speak for yourself. Because there's only so much you can put on paper that a person can read to the viewing audience. That's what I was expecting from the 2 roommates. And I'm not here to shade them, but I'm curious to these 2 and what they know about the 4 kids that lost their lives. Like I said, the rendering they gave to that pastor just wasn't emotional enough for me. But then I had to tell myself perhaps their bond wasn't as deep with those kids as the kids who died together. 9 times out of 10, Maddie and Kaylee had a strong bond. That's been said by their families. Ethan and Xana had a strong bond. And perhaps these girls were friendly with them enough, went out, had fun, did things together, but the bond wasn't so strong. I don't know. I'm up late, as always, because as I said, this is when I do my best thinking about circumstances, especially when I'm talking about true crime. And I want you all to take this slow journey with me into this 3-level house. Who was the perpetrator? Who was his target? Did he know the kids? Had he been in the house? If he's been in the house, and you'll hear different people, different FBI, former agents, law officials, retired, so on and so forth. Each will have his or her own opinion. But one opinion from a former FBI agent, she believes he has been in the house. He knows the victims. There was a target or targets. And that's why it was easy for him to infiltrate the home and exit the home. Is that true? Because if I want to think, hypothetically, that the killer knows the victims, has been in the house, then he knows about the downstairs. So why would he spare the 2? That's my question. If the perpetrator knows the house, has been in the house, Why did he spare the two roommates? Hypothetically, did he walk through the house, stand at their doors, listen to see if he heard any sound, decided, I won't bother with them. Their doors are locked. Were their doors locked? If they were locked, perhaps the killer said, I'm done. Did the perpetrator walk through the entire house? That's my question. How do these girls feel being the last two? Because they have to be feeling some type of way right now. Naturally, they feel grateful that they are alive. That would be your first feeling. Thank God he didn't choose me, us. But then you also have to ask yourself, why not? Why did the killer spare us? Do they know the killer? Do they have an idea who the killer is? Do they know more than what has been revealed? And as I told you in my last live stream, or one before that, is that these girls would know more about the entities in the house, the attitudes of the three roommates, how they maneuver the conversations, their thoughts, what angers them, what makes them happy, sad, their temperaments, cleaning habits, hygiene habits, who visited, who came over, the time they got up, time they went to bed, what they like to eat. They know more. And will they ever speak about the victims without a mouthpiece? Are they scared for their safety? Because let's just say, hypothetically, the killer knows the victims, knows the house, been inside of the house, spared these two for a reason. Then these two girls would have to fear for their safety. Why would they not? And you'd have to think this if, one, you don't know who the perpetrator is. You'd have to wonder why he spared me. How could you not think that? Why did the perpetrator spare us? So what are those girls feeling right now? Gratitude, anger, bewilderment, confused, relief. What are their emotions? Because I'd like to hear from them. Because as I said, who could spin the story better about the three victims better than the two that survived? Did they hear anything that night? Morning, rather. See anything suspicious? Did they get an odd feeling coming home? Did they get an odd feeling once they arrived to the house? What did they do when they got to the house? Stay up, watch TV, listen to music, talk on the phone, went straight to bed? What happened when they got home? How do they feel about their friends being deceased and murdered brutally? There's no way that they could be okay after surviving what was a nightmare in that house. Because common sense would tell you that while these two people slumbered, allegedly, a madman or mad person walked through the corridors of this 3-level house, 3, 4 level, however you want to word it, and went room to room killing people for whatever reason. And whether you want to believe 1, 2, 3, 4 was the target, the point is, bring a receipt that all 4 were the targets. And why did he kill all of them if the target was only 1? Hypothetically, the target is just 2. Then why did you kill the other 2 and leave the other 2 in the house? Because as I said, there's going to be many things pertaining to this crime and other crimes that you don't focus on that are sitting right in front of you, such as noise. Ethan was a big person. And if indeed he was found outside of the bedroom where he shared with Xana, then that means he was either caught off guard, struggled, and fell to the ground. Now, maybe a person on the bottom level, ground level, however you want to word it, wouldn't hear this person struggle or fall to the ground. Second floor, would you hear it from the second floor? Possibly not the third floor. So let's go there. Second floor. This is where the 2 were allegedly found, the couple. Could you hear from the bottom level any type of noise? Half asleep, deep sleep? You don't know. Because we're not hearing anything from the 2 surviving roommates. But I'm just questioning that. And it's been said on commentary that I've brought you from someone who lived in a house in 2019 that you wouldn't be able to hear any type of noise on the third level from the bottom level. Perhaps the second level if TV music was loud. But I'm going to use my better judgment that on the second floor, 2 people screamed and struggled. Third floor, Maddie and Kaylee. They screamed and struggled. I'm not even going to sit here and think the killer was so organized to come in and carry chloroform, anything like that. No, I'm not. Could he have? Of course. But let's say hypothetically he did not. Went on a rage for whatever reason. Issues with 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 other people. Went on a rage. Killed these people. But why? Why do we have 2 living roommates? You can't ignore that. Whether they were on the bottom level or not. Because 1, we don't have a suspect. A profile has not been revealed by law enforcement. Persons of interest have not been introduced to the public. And a motive has not been introduced to the public. So therefore, you can't say what was really going on in that house up until death. Were any of the occupants awake when the perpetrator entered the house? Would the 2 girls on the bottom actually sleep between 3 and 4 a.m. when this is a guesstimate from law officials when they think the crime happened? What time did it happen? There's so many questions, but naturally no answers. This video is about the 2 roommates because they can't be ignored. Not saying that they know anything or have anything to do with the crimes, but you have to ask, what were they doing? Were they up? Did they hear anything? Do they have a suspect in mind? Do they know more? Have they told law officials the truth? Have their versions deviated at any point to anyone else? What is the truth about what they know in that house? Because they're going to know more because they lived with the girls. Not an outsider, not a YouTuber, not anybody in the town, but those two girls, because they lived with them. And they would have a better idea of who could have done this. Now, if this is random, then they wouldn't have an idea. So is it random? Girls seen one of the girls in the house, and they became the sick fascination someone's mind. Seen them somewhere and became enthralled with them. Which one? Or is it all of them? Kill the others as collateral damage. They're in the way. Got to get rid of them. What's the truth? This is a very sick story, because I'm up at 3 a.m. when allegedly this crime took place. And this is the time when people are the most deviant because they feel they won't be seen. And this is the time that the perpetrator picked to kill these kids. I won't be seen, hopefully, going into the house. I won't be seen standing around the house, lurking around, if indeed that's how it went. And I won't be seen coming out. So he hopes. But has he been seen? Is there footage of someone going up to the property, to the front entrance or the back, and also exiting out the front or the back? Who was the target? That's going to be the main question many people will continue to ask. Did any of these people bring the perpetrator home or call the perpetrator to come over, or the perpetrator called and asked to come over? Which is it? Or this is random? Did the roommates bring someone over? Did the roommates call someone to come over? Or did someone call the roommates to come over? Because as I said before in my commentary, it will be utterly sickening to know that the perpetrator was invited into the house on this early morning. And he turned on these kids. And it has happened before, that people are sitting around with people thinking that they are in good favor with them, but they are not. The person is loathing and seething inside contempt for the person or the people in the house. And the dead can't speak. So what will their phone records reveal? Did anybody in the house call someone over in the wee hours? And that is how the perpetrator got in. Something else interesting to me that was said in commentary that I've brought to this network is that the door of Maddie's room was shut, locked. I want you to think about that for just a second. Why would the perpetrator shut the door? lock the door? Does it automatically lock when you shut it? Or you have to turn the knob and turn it to lock it? Some of you are probably wondering where I'm going with this. I think it's obvious. A random person wouldn't care to shut the door and lock it behind them. Nobody knows I'm here. Nobody knows I know the victims. The victims don't know me. So why do I need to shut the door and lock the door? Only a person that knows the victims would shut and lock the door. So perhaps the perpetrator knows the victims due to the fact they're saying the door was closed and locked. I can't see that a random person who has no affiliation with the inhabitants of the house care to shut the door, but then leave the glass door open. So is that true? The glass door was open. Second floor. So is that the exit he went out of and also came in? Was he injured? Because one would have to ask, why was that door open allegedly? If I'm to believe the roommates' accounts. And the fact that they haven't spoken is a problem for me because I don't like messengers of information. And that's another problem for me as well. All the people standing around calling 911, to me, was just like a scary movie. If I'm to believe that they got up and found Ethan first in the kitchen area, living room, wherever, run out, one passes out, one can't talk. This is a typical movie scene. And I had to think about that. You've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. One can't speak and one passes out. What are the odds? And naturally, if you're seeing someone bludgeoned to death, possibly you would be in shock. You would pass out, throw up. I've also mentioned that in my commentary. Did the perpetrator throw up? Because just because I don't like you or I've come to loathe you doesn't mean my stomach can handle butchering you to death. So did the perpetrator vomit? I ask all these questions because they're relevant. Because that has happened with people who have murdered people. They have thrown up. But the scene outside, this chaotic scene, which got distorted in the news, which I don't know how, it's interesting to me. And it's not to say that it didn't happen, but it's secondhand information. Not coming from the girls directly, and that's where I have a problem. I want to hear you say what you saw and what you did thereafter. Not someone going to social media to say, I want to clear up this, this, and this. Frankly, that wasn't your job. The person involved in the storyline should want to clear it up. And then when it's time for them to speak about their dead friends, they use a pastor. And this is where it's suspect to me to some degree. Now, I can understand you don't want to publicly speak because you don't want everybody knowing who you are, although your names have been released on YouTube. But it's interesting they haven't given their version of what happened that morning. And naturally, if they believe the killer is watching, they may fear for their safety, so they don't speak. I'm just curious. Because as you see, Mr. Gonsalves doesn't have a problem speaking. But naturally, he isn't dead, so he can speak. What happened in that house? What happened in that house? Why were two roommates spared? If the killer knows all of the roommates, then he knew about the two on the bottom and spared them. Why? If it was random, why didn't he go through all of the house? Did he go through all of the house? See, those are the questions I'm very curious about. It's what did the perpetrator do when he got in? Did he go from top to bottom or bottom to top? Howsoever. Because when it's targeted, and I've been in the house, then I don't have no need to go anywhere else. If it's targeted, I don't have any reason to go to any other floor, search any rooms. So then that leaves the obvious. If it was targeted and the person has been in the house, then they also know that there is security or no security in the house. Very interesting. He's been in a house, hypothetically, so he knows or assumes there are no cameras inside of the house. Because nobody can say where a person would put a camera in a house. Who could say that? You don't know. You don't know the victims. And you're talking about a nice-sized house with 5 or more people living in the house. You should have some type of security in the house. You should have security outside. Why not? You can't assume somebody won't break into your house. Somebody you've let come over, house parties, strangers, friends of friends, not your actual friends, but you know of them. You can't say they won't go in a room and steal something, steal a DVD or anything minute, because people do it all the time. So this house to me was high risk because too many people, too many entities, too many people to bring in as friends, associates. If you're the type to have different parties and functions, that is dangerous. But when you are young, you don't think about those things because that is the farthest thing from your mind is that someone is going to harm you. I don't think they were as close. That's the point of why I made the comment at the beginning of this live. The commentary by the pastor led me to believe that the two roommates were not as close as Kaylee and Maddie and Xana. But they could have been close to Xana. I don't really know because I don't know the dynamics of these people's relationships. But the wordings is off to me. There's no, I miss you. We're going to miss you. We had wonderful times together. It was written as if someone else wrote it in an official capacity, not a personal capacity. And there's a difference. Because when you listen to a speech, you can tell when it is official and if it is personal. Their wordings by the pastor seemed official. and not personal. That's just my assertion. I'm not saying that they had any issues with the girls, any animosity, because I don't know them. But there was no, I'm going to miss you. You girls were great. We had wonderful times together. I love you. I'm devastated. Let Queen say it again. I'm devastated of your passings, plural. Gonna miss you all. I'm stunned. I'm shocked. Because you see, when people go to funerals and speak, they may say those things without trying to describe how the people died as not to offend people in the funeral. But when you don't put anything personal in your statement, that is exactly what it sounds like. Just a statement and not heartfelt, deep. Because if you weren't really close to the girls, it wouldn't be. Just a thought. Were the roommates close to the other roommates? No suspect, no information of data, evidence received back yet, which some has come back, but no information, and I doubt that we'll get any information. But I'm wondering what has come back as far as phone logs, pings, any type of physical evidence, fibers. I'm sure they're probably putting a rush on this because there are 4 individuals. I pray that something comes up with a fingerprint, footprint, something. Anything, DNA. Because as I said, you don't know what the perpetrator did while in the house. He could have relieved himself, touched something somewhere in the house where a fingerprint should not be with DNA of all the victims. Same with any roommate. We will see. But that's my commentary. What do the roommates know? How do they feel about being spared? Do they have survivor's guilt? What do they know about these kids? Do they have an idea of who killed these kids? Do they know of any problems with the kids and other people outside of the house, personal friends, acquaintances? Did they have problems with the girls? Was there any animosity, jealousy, loathing? Was this orchestrated? Was this an orchestrated plan? Killing of 4 people, 3 people, 2 people, or 1 person? And if it was an orchestrated plan, murder of just 1, then one would assume the others were collateral damage and knocked off because of their proximity to the target. What is the truth? Will we ever find out who the target was? That is my commentary. What do the roommates know? And why were they spared? If I'm to believe that the perpetrator knew the victims, planned this attack, why did he spare the 2? Because that means if indeed the perpetrator is known to the victims, had a target in mind, 1 or more or all, then he spared the 2 deliberately. And that is something to focus on until an understanding can be of who the perpetrator is and his motive. And if there's more than one weapon used, point of entry, point of exit. Did he take anything from the victims? Souvenirs. Did he leave anything behind? Evidentiary from his person's body, skin cells, sweat, semen, urine, fecal matter. Did he wash up at the scene? Did he take clothes with him? Was this planned? And if so, how long? That will be my commentary Wednesday. Was this a planned murder of one or all of the victims? And how long did he plan it? And does he know the victims? Or this was a random attack? Saw one, two more somewhere and decided on this fateful morning, the witching hour, such as this time I'm up now, to exact a heinous crime against 4 people. Thank you for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans.